Hey guys, Jonathan Soto here. Today we will not be doing a movie review, or we kind of will be, but not really. But today we will actually be doing a revisitation on a certain thing because of its anniversary, and that is for Stranger Things Season 3. It has now turned 5 years old. Wow, how fucking fast time flies, because 2019 does not even feel like 5 years ago, and I mean at all. Like, no, there is no fucking way 2019, the happiest year I have ever lived, like the chillest year I've ever had, it was 5 years ago. There is no fucking way. No fucking way that has already been 5 years ago. When I was 14 and I was going to the movies 24/7 all the time because so many good movies were coming out that year. And going from 8th grade to high school. How has high school been that fast? No. There is I cannot get over how fucking fast high school went for me, cuz 4 years, where the fuck did 4 years go? Cuz if you guys are wondering about this was actually last year. This was not last year meaning last month. This was last year meaning 13 months ago. Like 13, 14 months ago, I graduated. And that doesn't even feel like it's already been a year ago already. I cannot believe how fast time has been flying. It has been 5 years since I had the best 4th of July ever. If you guys are familiar with my channel or have been watching from the very beginning since 2020, you guys should know, or follow me on Instagram for that matter. You guys should definitely know that Stranger Things is my favorite TV show of all time. Stranger Things is literally has my whole heart. I love the show so much. I am so attached to it. I am so in love with everything in this show. I love everything about this show. There is barely even anything I don't like about it. Like, everything is literally like amazing. Like, everything in this season is amazing. Not just the season, the whole show. The whole show is all amazing, and there is not a single bad season. There isn't even a mediocre season either. It's all great. Like, it's all A tier masterpieces for me. Every single season, from season 1 to 4. All A tier masterpieces. But I'm just gonna say also, season 4 is actually not my favorite season. Season 4, so many people keep saying it's the best season, and I can kind of see why now, or I can actually, not kinda, like I can actually see why most people would say it's the best season. But me personally, if you guys saw that review for season 4, I said it was the worst season, but no, I do not think that at all. Like, not at all anymore. Like, it does not have that. I don't know what the fuck I was thinking then. It does not have that potential to be last at all. It is actually my second favorite season, because my favorite season of all of them, you won't believe it. You won't even take a guess. It's this season, season 3. It is actually my favorite season of them all. And I'm gonna get into detail as to why. And that's the main reason I wanted to do this review, because I really wanted to do a revisit on my favorite season of my favorite TV show. I said the whole show has my whole heart, but this season really peaks at that. It really peaks at having my whole heart. Like, yes, every season I think all the same for. Like, I love it all very equally, but this one just cranks it up a little notch, because this season has everything I ever want in a movie or a TV show. And I mean everything. This season is literally for me, I would say, because this season I am so attached to. I love this season so much. It is, yeah, if you guys saw my review for season 3 I did way back in 2020, I still have the same feelings for season 3 as I did then, and better. Like, I like it more than I did then. Like, I even then I was saying it was my favorite season, but now it still is, but I like it even better now, cuz the more I watch it, the more I'm just so satisfied and fascinated and amazed and just like wowed by this season, cuz it's just so beautifully well done. This season, I would say, is the most beautifully well done season, because it is super colorful, and I am a huge freak for colors, and this gives me so many eye-popping colors, and it looks beautiful. Like, this has the most beautiful look I've ever seen for not just this season, for not just this show, but for any show in general, if I'm being honest. Like, and it might even be like one of the most beautiful pieces of film I have ever seen, because it is just eye popping. It is, I can't even describe it because it is just so good. Like, wow. I want more movies like this. Why aren't there more movies that look like this? I need more movies that look like this because I am so in love with the look of this season. And they did not even continue that in the fourth season, which was why I was being harsh with it in the last review. But I see what the season is now. Like, as its own. Like, every season is different as its own, and I see it now. Like, it's all very different on their own. So yeah, but this season, it's the most different season, I would say, and a lot of people would acknowledge that too. That this season is the most different of the bunch, and that's why the season gets a bit of criticism at times, like for other fans and stuff. And but I'm just gonna say, I really, 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 really don't get the criticisms and hate that this season gets. Like, this season does get shitted on a little bit, not gonna lie. I would say season 2 does get it a bit more, but I can understand people's criticisms with that season. But with this season, no, I do not understand any criticism in going to this season. I do not understand why some people actually don't like this season. I don't understand that at all. Like, what are they on? Because this season is awesome. Like, from start to finish, awesome, amazing, beautiful, satisfying, entertaining, I meant. So yeah, entertaining, funny, action packed, even bloody, and it's still suspenseful too. Like, people say this season didn't get suspenseful, but I still think it got very suspenseful. Like, with the Russians, with Billy and the Flayed, like, there were some great suspenseful moments with them. Very dark moments too, that were, yeah, very dark and gory moments with the Flayed and all of them. And this season has some of the darkest moments of the show, I would say. Seasons 3 and 4, like, really do peak with the dark, I would say. Like, this season is like dark when it needs to be. Like, if it's trying to be dark, it succeeds perfectly. And this season tries to do so many things, combines so many genres into one, which is why I love it so much. Because I feel like the other seasons don't really do this as much, but this season I felt combined so many genres all in one. It combined horror. It combined horror, nostalgia, comedy, action, suspense, sci-fi. What else? Even emotion. This season even gets very emotional too, especially towards the end. And the deaths in this season really, really do hit hard. And same with season 4 too. Like, these two seasons are equally the best to me. They're equally the best to me, but it's just season 3 I prefer a little more, just because of the nostalgia and the the very satisfying summer vibe. I love the summer feel to this season so much. Like, I love summer themed movies. Like, summer themed movies I think are so fun and so relaxing, and they just really put you in a mood. Yeah. And uh this season taking place in summertime was perfect, and they captured that summer vibe perfectly, the summer 80s vibe. And they captured the 80s perfectly yet again. This season captures so many things perfectly, I would say. Like, the 80s, it captures it so perfectly. Summer in the 80s, it actually looks really, really fun, and I really want to be a part of it. It feels so real. Like, the whole world of the 80s, the mall, the hangout scenes, everything else, like, everything this season does that's 80s, like, feels so real, and it really makes you want to go. It really makes you want to go to the 80s, and it actually makes you feel like you're having fun with them. And that's another thing that I love about this season so much, is that this whole season is just all fun. I love fun movies, like, cuz I'm always serious all the time. So if I see something fun, then I want to have fun. I really want to go for the fun. And this season really gives me so much fun. And it's like fun from start to finish. Literally start to finish fun. all enjoyable, never gets boring. Never, ever, ever gets boring. And that's what I love about it so much. And that's why I say I like it better than 4, because 4 at times I thought got a bit slow. There were a bit of boring and weird parts, but this season, zero of that. Zero. But season 3, it has the perfect pace too. Like, not many people give it credit for having such a good pace. Like, season 1, yes, it of course has an amazing pace, a perfect pace, like really good and directional pace that it's just all around good. I love season one's pace, but this season I would say is paced better to me because it's like, because season one was great, not gonna lie, but like yeah, I love season one. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, I love season one, but I think that season was a little too small scale and it had too little happening. And this season just exceeds that to me. And season 4, I thought had a bit too much happening. Like season 1 had a bit too little. Season 4 had way too much to me. But this season has the perfect balance. Like there's not too much nor too little happening in it. It's the perfect balance, and it has such a good pace, and it's such a fast pace too. Like this season is so fast. That's what. Yes, this season is so fast. It's so fast to finish. It's such an easy watch. Much easier watch than season 4. So yeah, it's such an easy watch, and that's what I love about it. Seasons 1 and 3, I would say, have the easiest flow, and season 4, I would say, has the hardest flow, but still great though, still great. And I know a lot of people would prefer the 4th season over this season, but me personally, I just prefer this season just a little more, just because I'm more of a vibes guy, and I just love the beautiful colors and the nostalgia of this season so much. But yeah, if you're more of a vibes guy and you like movies like Dazed and Confused or Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, then you will definitely love this season too. Because this season actually has very, very similar vibes to those two movies actually. In the first season, it heavily felt like a Steven Spielberg and Stephen King project. Like, it felt like something like those two masters would have done together in the late 70s or early 80s. And this season kind of feels like that too, but not with those masters. It really feels like Richard Linklater meets Wes Anderson, actually. It heavily feels like that here, because it feels like Richard Linklater with his chill vibes and like just his moody vibes and like his chill movies and just beautiful themes. And also feels like Wes Anderson with his beautiful colors and his silliness in his movies. So yeah, it really does feel like them two masters here. And I would even say it kind of feels like Quentin Tarantino a little bit too. I want to say that, but then I don't, because Quentin Tarantino really is a master of his own. Like there's really nobody that could spoof off of him. But I just say that just because it really feels like the same vibes of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, with character pieces and just scenes of characters just talking with each other and hanging out with each other, and it's so satisfying with like a bunch of gore and stuff too. But I wouldn't say it feels like him, just because like Quentin Tarantino, like he's just an entire mind of his own. And I don't think he could have ever came up with something like this. But it really does feel like Richard Linklater and Wes Anderson though. This season, the story. Now let's get on to the story. This movie's story is just crazy. This is such a crazy, wild story, and I love it. It's so fun. This is such a fun story to follow. Season 4 story, I would say, was a little better, but me personally, I prefer season 3 story a bit more, but either one has an awesome story to me. Yes, like I said, both are awesome, but season 3, I love the story. It's just bonkers. Like, the Russians underground under a mall building an interdimensional gate, like opening an interdimensional gate under a mall. Who would have thought of that? Who would have ever thought of that? That is so fun. I know to some people it might sound dumb, but it's the 80s. It's the 80s. It's a crazy show. It's a show about aliens and government, like governments and aliens and kids fighting those. And they do that yet again here. They fight Russians, and it's awesome. Like, I don't care what anyone says. I love the Russians in the show. I know some people say the Russians are a bit of a waste. I don't think that at all. At all. I actually think the Russians are very, very needed in this show because they do provide great suspense and great, like, story. Like, they do progress the story very well, I would say. And especially for the time, too. Because, yes, for people who don't like the Russians, hear this. They are very needed for three very good reasons. One, you can't do the 80s without USA versus the Soviet Union, because that was a big thing in the 80s with the Cold War and stuff. USA and the Russians being enemies with one another and like battling with one another. And yes, so you can't do the 80s without that, and that's the time this show takes place. And my second reason, like I said, the show is about children fighting monsters and the government, and we already saw them fight the American government in the first two seasons with the Hawkins Lab. And here they are now fighting the enemies of the American government, the Russians, which makes perfect sense for the show. It makes perfect sense right there. Because first they fight the American government, now they're fighting the enemies of that government. So it just makes perfect sense and progresses the story in a really, really interesting way. Very interesting and creative addition to the show. I love the Russians. Yes, they are badass. And I love Grigory. Like, I love Grigory. I don't care what anyone says. He is a badass. I love the Terminator. I love 80s movies so much, which is, I think that's probably why I love this season so much, because I love 80s. I think the 80s culture is beautiful. The movies are great. Like, I love 80s movies. Like, 80s had some of the best movies, I would say. So yeah, yes, 80s is awesome to me, and the fact that we got the Terminator in this show was such a good add to the show to me. And he made sense. Like, it made sense though for what the story they were telling and for what the show is about nostalgia. Like, cuz a lot of people say Stranger Things is just about suspense, but to me, it's more about a love letter to the 80s. It's definitely a love letter to the 80s with suspense in it. Like, being a suspense thriller of the 80s, like spoofing and ripping off the 80s. That's what this show is. And people don't see that. People just think it's just a suspense dark show. So that's probably why they don't like the change of tone here. But I am all for it though. Like, I'm all for it because I love the 80s and it makes sense for the show. The show had to do this one way or another. Like, the show had to do this. Back to Grigory. Yes, badass. He really like ups Joyce and Hopper's story, and he makes it more fun by giving Hopper someone to fight, like someone cool to fight, and to just fight all the time and make it more cool. So yeah, he really progresses that story. He's great. He's smart. Yes, I like Grigory. I think he's a great addition to the show. And my third and final reason about why I think the Russians are very needed in the show is, in the 80s, Russians were always being the villains in pretty much every movie, I would say. In the 80s, a bunch of movies coming out, Russians or Russian people were always the villain in every single movie. And this season is being about nostalgia and it bringing that back. So they bring that back and they up the nostalgia even more here with making the Russians the villains yet again in an 80s TV show. And again, I thought that was a very creative idea to do, especially for the time. And the fact that they're the ones opening the gate this time, I thought was awesome. Like, wow, like the fact that they're the ones opening the gate was just like mind-blowing to me. Like, wow, like the enemies of the American government, the ones that Hawkins Lab were trying to battle with to prove that the Americans are better, are the ones trying to open the gate and trying to make it their own. Like, wow, like that was creative to me. I thought that was a very, very clever thing to do. So yeah, and I don't think it's silly at all. I think it's fun. So yeah, it's not silly. It's just flat out fun, and I'm just all for it. Like I'm just all for it. I don't care if it's not realistic, because all of the show is not realistic. So yes, and the Russians they really have a cool story here, and the Russian lab, even the Russian lab is beautifully well done too. Literally, the Russian lab I think is just as beautifully well done as the Starcourt Mall, because even the Russian lab looks very colorful too, because the floor and the ceilings are all bright blue. Their cars are bright red, their uniforms are bright green, and the thing like the laser beam that's opening the gate is bright pink. Their computer screens are yellow. It's all colorful. It's still super colorful and looks so beautiful, and I love going to this Russian lab, and it feels real to me because it actually feels like I'm going through this long ass walkway with the Scoops troop that's so suspenseful. You don't know where they're gonna get to next. But another reason why I love this show is because I am so attached to these characters. Like, it's the characters are actually my favorite part of this show. I'm just gonna say that right off the bat. It's not what happens. It's not the monsters. It's none of that. It's the characters. The amazing, the amazing, relatable, funny, what else? Funny and just all around great characters. Like they're all around like such awesome characters. They're so well written. Like they're so beautifully well written. They are acted very well too. They're acted beautifully. Like they're acting, nothing wrong with their acting. Their acting is spot on perfect, and these performances really make you believe in the characters, and the actors do such great jobs. Like I can't even I don't even know how to do it justice or give them props for being such good actors of this show. That they really make this show. Like the actors and the characters really make this show for me, and I love them so much. They're all awesome. I love them all. In season 3, there's not a single character I don't like. In season 4, there were a few characters I didn't like, to an extent, I would say. But season 3, zero characters that I didn't like. I love every single character. They're all so funny. They're all so great. They have their great development, and they have all their chances to shine. And not a single of them is wasted in this season. And I thought season 4 might have wasted a few characters, I think. But this season, every character has their chance to shine. They all get their moment. Yes, they all have their purpose. And that's why I love this season, because this is the one I would say was most about characters. It was the most about a character piece, I would say. And that's what I loved about it so much, because I love, like I said, these characters are like my favorite groups of kids ever in a show or a movie, not gonna lie. But yes, and I loved the first half of this season so much, and I don't care what anyone says. I actually like the first half of this season a little better than the second half. The second half is still awesome. Like I still love the second half. But the first half, I love like the moody vibes of the first half, with having fun with these characters, like these characters just having fun and just being normal kids. Like the first 2 seasons, like they were just trying to save the world, and they were going they were going through dark times, but here they're just being normal kids having fun, developing and stuff like that, and having relationship issues, like fighting with each other, and it's so satisfying to me. Like I love going with these characters to the mall, hanging out in the fields. What else? Like having sleepovers. Like I love the cute little moments of Elle and Max having sleepovers. Those were such relaxing scenes, such relaxing and satisfying scenes to me. I love the first half so much because I literally feel like I'm hanging out with these characters. I literally feel like I'm here in Hawkins in 1985 in Starcourt Mall, hanging with these characters and having so much fun in the 80s, being so amazed by the culture, just all around just laughing with them. Like Yes, it's literally like you're there with them. That's how real it feels. It feels like you're hanging out with them, laughing with them. It just feels like you're there. Like, why do people not give it credit for that? It literally feels like you're there. So yes, I loved moments of just hanging out with the characters, and the scene with Ellen Max shopping. I love that scene so much. Yes, Ellen Max shopping was just beautiful. And I loved their chemistry in this season. They had such a cute friendship. It was the one of the cutest friendships I have ever seen, and like top three best duos of the show for sure. And yes, hanging out with them, spying on the boys, it was so funny. So yes, the funniest season without a doubt. And yes, and this season the jokes are so funny. They work so well. They are so well written. Yes, I know the season went different, but the different tone it took still worked. Like everything the season did that was different still worked like a charm. Literally, it still all works. And why don't people see that? The different tone still works. It still pays off. It's still fun. It's still compelling. Yes, it still has its shine. Like it still has the same shine as the rest of the show does. But yes, and I love the side with the boys too, with Mike, Lucas, and Will, with Mike and Lucas just having relationship issues with their girlfriends and giving each other advice and talking about it and just being all like ugh about it, like that's what I love. It's just them. It's just yes, like I said, it's just them being normal kids for once. So yeah, and yes, I love little scenes like that, and I will scene like I know a lot of people say Will didn't have much of a character here, that he was just to the side, he was in the background, but I didn't think that. I mean, I still thought I thought he was just kind of there too. Like I didn't really think he did as much as he did in the last season. Like yeah, the last season was a lot about him, and this season just does that the opposite and is a lot more about Elle. But I appreciated changing like that though, because yes, I loved focusing on Elle more than Will actually. I mean, Will's still a great character, don't get me wrong, but focusing on Elle this time around I thought was perfect. And she's all with the group in this season, and she kicks ass in this season. Like she really kicks ass in this season. This is the most action-packed season, I think. The season where we see Elle use her powers the most, and it is fucking awesome. The scenes with Elle using her powers and fighting the Flayed and all of that, those scenes are so dope. And yes, they really go down to me. They really go down when she's fighting, and it's awesome. What was I gonna say? But back to Will though. I don't think Will didn't have a character in. I disagree with people saying Will didn't have a character in the season, because I still think he had a great character, and he had a very emotional scene to me that really touched my heart, especially when I was at that age, like watching that season 2 at that age. I really felt that. And this season did come out at the perfect age for me, because I was their exact age that they were in this season, leaving 8th grade going to high school. And yes, that was the perfect time for the season to come out. Because I that got me relating to it even more the first time. Like I still relate to the kids in this, like watching it now, but then I was really relating to them, and that's what I was finding so fascinating about it, watching it for the first time. And seeing that scene, I really felt it. And that's the scene where Will destroys Castle Byers. That is such a sad scene, because it is a really heart touching theme of this movie. It's like one of the main themes of this season. We are not kids anymore. We are growing up. We have to grow up, no matter how hard it is. And Will doesn't want to grow up. He still wants to be a kid. He still wants to be in those times where he would have fun with his best friends, playing D&D every night. And now he knows he's growing up, and he doesn't want to. And that really was sad to me. Like that still puts me in tears to this day. And I still feel I even now I still feel that, because I'm 19 years old now, and I'm still being an adult, but it's really hard growing up, not gonna lie. And watching that now too, it still gives me a lot of relatment and emotion. Like I really do feel that scene. So yes, and I think that was a much better and emotional scenes than he ever had in season 4. Because if you thought he had a step down in this season, he had a more of a step down in season 4, I would say. Because in season 4, they literally made Will boring. But here, like I said, he had his chance to shine with that season. He had that development, and I still love that about him, even though he didn't get as much screen time this time. He still had that great development, and he still had the neck thing. Like he was still giving them pointers about like how he feels the mind flayer. I love everything about this season. Like I said, I love every story that goes around. I love the main story with the Flayed and Billy, and I loved Billy being the main villain in this season. He was an awesome villain. He also had an arc. Like he had a full arc in this season, which was amazing, and I really cared for Billy in this season. And yes, he didn't want to do any of this, but the mind flayer was making him do it. So yeah, and you really feel his emotion in this season, and there are some very emotional scenes with him towards the end of the season, discovering his backstory on how he was as a child and how he became to be how he is now. And that scene was really emotional. Like I really love that scene. It was so interesting seeing Billy's backstory when he was just a kid, when he was happy with his mom, but then his mom left and left him to his with his dad, and his dad raised him to be an asshole. So yeah, and that was such an interesting story arc right there, seeing him from an asshole to the end, saving Elle. Such a beautiful arc. Like I'll get to that once I start talking about the ending of the season. But yes, every story is great. I love the second story too with the Scoops Troop. I love the Scoops Troop too. The Scoops Troop are so funny. They're so cool. I love going through this adventure with them because like their adventure is so mind-blowing to me because going to an elevator that deep underground, damn, like, and being trapped and tortured by Russians, like that was so suspenseful. Like what are they gonna fucking do to Steve and Robin? So yeah, and what was I gonna say? But I love the Scoops Troops mostly because those scenes we were all in Starcourt Mall. That whole story was all in Starcourt, and it was all them trying to crack a Russian code in a mall. That scene just screams the 80s to me. Like just seeing that whole story, it just screams the 80s to me. Cracking a Russian code in a mall, that is pure 80s right there. That's 80s. So yeah, and those scenes are so fun, and Steve and Dustin have a very strong and cute brother relationship that I love so much. I love their brother relationship in this season. I would say it peaks more here. This is the peak of their relationship here, and it is fun, and it's literally like you're on this adventure with them. So yeah, and Steve had some great moments here. He had some great moments to shine. He was like their bodyguard of this adventure. He was helping them. What else? Like he was really caring too. Like he really had a heart for everyone that was like on this adventure with him. Like he was really trying to be protectful with them too, especially with Erica and Dustin. And I love that little scene where Dustin's like, "If you die, I die." That perfect, like, I don't know how to describe that line, but I'm just gonna say that's perfect brotherhood right there. Like that just shows you they really are brothers. Like these are actual brothers. Like literally, that just shows you the the chemistry they have, like the amazing chemistry they have, and why you love it. So yeah. I loved Robin in this season. Robin was so cool in this season. She was so funny. She had a lot of great emotion too, especially towards the end with her backstory, which again, I can relate to so much. That whole scene in the bathroom and when they fell off the chair in the Russian lab, that those scenes where they were talking about their backstories in high school and how Robin felt about Steve in those days, those scenes were actually very emotional, and I really felt them because I really did feel what Robin was saying, because she was saying that you were always such an asshole, Steve, but all us losers, we actually loved you guys too, because we actually looked up to you guys, because you guys were the normal kids, and we just wanted to know how it would feel like to be normal and accepted. And then Steve's like, she says something like that, but Steve says, yeah, all that, it's just bullshit. I love that scene so much because I was going through that same thing in high school. Like, when I was in high school, I wasn't the most popular kid around, and I really wanted to be. I really wanted to be like, ex- like someone living in high school, like someone like who's known that people like. And I was never that. Like, I was just like the nerdy shy kid who I was just the nerdy shy kid who wouldn't really talk much, and who didn't I don't really know how to fit in with with this generation, to be honest. So yeah, I never really fit in with this generation or really got good with making conversations with kids my age, because kids my age have a different way of talking, and so many kids aren't even into the things that I am at all. So I always had a tough time in high school. So her talking about her high school experiences with Steve were so interesting and so heart touching and relatable. So yes, I loved Robin in this season for being a bit relatable to me. But in season 4, I feel like they kind of not ruined her, but they kind of lowered her character quite a bit, not gonna lie. But this season, she was amazing. And Erica was funny. I loved Erica in this season. She was so funny. I think this is the season where she had the most, like, it was her season. Like, the peak of her was that season. So yeah, she was so funny. She had so many funny lines. She really progressed the story more, and she also had an arc too, because she would always call Lucas and her friends a bunch of nerds, but then at the end it turns out that she's a nerd too. Yes, every character has their development, which is what I love about this season. I love character development, and I love how this season really gives me a lot of that. And then yeah, I think that's all the people in the Scoops Troop. They're all great. And then we even got Joyce and Hopper's story. I love their stories. I love their story as much as those stories too, because I know a lot of people say Hopper, they kind of changed him here, and some people will even say they ruined him. But me personally, I don't think so at all. Like, I think Hopper was exactly the same as he's always been in every season. But now he's just so fed up with all that he's been through that he's just given up to this point. He's just a jerk now, and he just wants it all to be about him now. So yeah, but that's what makes him funny though. Like, that's not ruining his character. That's making him funny. Like, he's funny acting like a jerk in this season, arguing with Joyce all the time, threatening Mike all the time. It's just funny. Like, you guys are just taking this too seriously. That's the thing with people nowadays. They just take things way too seriously. Learn to have fun and enjoy it and laugh with it. So yeah, Hopper was not ruined in the season. He was just funny, and he had great moments here too. He had his amazing moments to shine here, and I love when he's kicking ass in this season. Not only fighting Grigory, but fighting other Russians too. Like, that one scene in the carnival was so dope to me. And yeah, Hopper, he was great in this season. Like, I still think he's just as great as he was in every single season. Like, not a single character is ruined in the season at all. And Joyce was still great in this season. Like, I would say she wasn't as angsty as she was in the first 2 seasons, but she was still great here though. Like, she still provided a lot of laughs, and she had a great relationship with Hopper, and I really loved going through this adventure with them, was finding out about what happened to her magnets and what is up, like, why is there no magnetism in the town. So yeah, so yes, and she finds out about the Russians, and they end up becoming the ones to be the heroes at the very end rather than Elle, which I loved so much. So yeah, Yeah, their story was still great. And Alexi, how could I not mention Alexi? Alexi was so adorable. I loved Alexi so much. He was a great new character of this season. And that's another reason why I love the Russians. They give me the easily the best Russian character of this show, which is Alexi. He's so funny, he's so likable, he has great funny scenes. I love the cherry slurpee scene. That scene always gets me. Every time I watch that scene, I'm always cracking up. I love that cherry slurpee scene. And he does have a good arc too, because at first he was working with the bad Russians. He was working with the bad Russians and like helping them and stuff, but as he was working with them more and more, he really saw that they were doing bad. Like all this was actually really wrong, and it could really, really go sideways for them. So he was the only one smart enough to see that and to be good and to help them and tell them everything about what they're doing and giving them a map, giving them pointers. Like he was great. Like he still like yes, that was a great arc too, turning from a bad Russian to someone who wants to be good and wants to move on and even be American. Because I think at one point he said, like, America seemed fun with the cherry slurpees and the fairs, and Murray was like, you don't have to be American to join the fun. Go ahead, have some fun. Like, that scene was so cute to me. Him having fun. I loved that scene so much. And then it quickly turned sad when you guys know what I'm talking about, but that scene always breaks my heart. Always breaks my heart to this day. But yes, he was a great addition to the show, I would say. But I would say he was one of those new characters where you love them so much and then they died so sadly, like so many other new characters in the show. But great addition to the show was him. Let's get on to some of my favorite scenes of this season. I'm already gonna say I love the sauna scene. The sauna scene, I think everyone knows that's one of the best scenes of the season. I love that scene so much. It is awesome. The cinematography in that season is awesome too. Everything about that scene was great. Like the action, Billy choking Elle, the Mike trying to save her, like Elle throwing stuff at him. Like that scene was awesome. I love that scene so much. And then another favorite scene I had in this season was the hospital scene. I think everyone knows the hospital scene was horrific. Like that hospital scene was one of the most, if not the most darkest scene of the season, because that scene went down. It really went down, and it was awesome. Like it was so awesome. That scene, epic. That scene is epic. Yes, and then Nancy and Jonathan fighting some of the Flayed that were their bosses. Like, it's so cool how the bosses that were so, like, mean to them, bullying them all the time, ended up being a part of the Flayed. I thought that was very creative right there. And that scene with them fighting their bosses, the Flayed, that scene was just damn, like it was so dark. Like the fighting in that scene, that was real fighting right there, real to death fighting. It was like insane. It was insane, that scene. The blood coming together, forming the meat flare. That's what I call this monster in this season, because they've never really given this monster a name actually, and for some weird reason, but they should give it like a cohesive name, like an actual name. But I've always called it the Meat Flayer or the Demo Lion, because it has similar traits to a lion to me. But yeah, I most of the times call it the Meat Flayer. The Meat Flayer in this season, awesome monster to the show. Like awesome monster. Like I would say he was actually my favorite monster of the show. I say monster, not villain, but Vecna. Easily the best villain of the show, but in regards to monster, the Meat Flayer was definitely my favorite because he was so compelling. He was so disturbing to look at. The way he was formed and his story is so disturbing. Yes, he provides some of the goriest, the darkest moments of the show and most suspenseful moments of the show, especially when he's trying to go after the kids at the mall. And the Meat Flayer, he does the most out of every monster, I would say, because he literally beat the shit out of Elle. He bit her and took her powers. He controlled most of like part of the town too, and he was just all there in the Battle of Starcore. Like, he did so much in this season. Like, none of the other monsters can say they actually hurt Elle. Because yes, Elle can easily fight the other monsters, but the meat flare really got her. Like, it really beat her up, and not many people give him enough credit, because he is literally the one that took away Eleven's powers. This scene. Okay, now this is a scene that I think should get a lot more notice. This is a scene that was actually the scene that always gets me happy. It gets me super, super happy every time I watch it. And why do not many people bring this up? And that is the theater scene. The Back to the Future reference. My god, like, that was perfect. That was perfect. Having a scene of the 80s audience watching Back to the Future, one of my favorite movies of all time, in my top 10. Having one of my favorite movies be referenced in my favorite show of all time. You guys have no idea how happy that gets me. That is so satisfying to me. Like, that was so fun, that whole theater scene. Like, seeing their reactions to the movie, and seeing the kids' reactions to the movie even though they weren't paying attention to it, and their funny commentary. It was, and even when the movie ended, it showed this a little scene of the audience clapping, and it was such a fun scene. Like, I don't see why that scene doesn't get, like, notice much. Like, people don't bring it up much, when I really think they should, because Back to the Future really, really is a classic movie, and that scene really just, I don't know, just something about that scene just always warms my heart. So yes, I love that scene so much. It is I think, yeah, that and the Case of the Missing Lifeguard, I think, are the two most underrated scenes of this season. And the entire Battle of Starcourt, of course. The entire episode of the Battle of Starcourt is my favorite part of the show, which I think a lot of people can acknowledge too. But the Battle of Starcourt, that was awesome. Like, that is what you call an awesome climax right there. These two seasons had, without a doubt, the best climax of the show, and I prefer this climax just a hair more, or maybe even just a crumb more, because this climax was still very, very brilliant too. But this climax was awesome too. It still had emotion. Like, there was great emotion in the end of it. And here's another scene that doesn't get brought up enough, and that is the scene with Elle's leg. I almost forgot to mention that scene. The Elle's leg scene, I thought, was very, very disturbing. Not many people really bring that scene up, but that is another underrated scene of this season too, because that scene was truly disturbing to me, and you feel that scene too. You really feel that scene, like Elle's, like how fractured and injured and bloodied up her leg is, and Jonathan having to cut it open and literally put his whole hand in there. Like, ugh. Like, that scene always gives me the chills every time I watch it. I think that's probably, like, I think I said the hospital scene was the darkest scene, but I think this scene might win it, actually, because this always gives me chills every time I watch it. And why don't enough people bring it up? Especially nowadays. Like, I would even say that was probably the most disturbing scene of the entire show. I'm actually gonna be completely honest, that was the most disturbing scene of the show, because that's the only scene where, when I get back to it, always gives me chills. So, yeah. But yes, that whole scene was great, and the fact that Elle even lost her powers too makes it even more suspenseful too, and really ups the stakes a lot. Oh, here's a little nitpick that I have with this season. I feel like Lucas and Jonathan didn't really have much of character developments in this season. It's just a little nitpick that I have, though, and it's my only nitpick, though. I just wish them two could have had a little bit more characters in this season, especially Lucas with his relationship with Max. I feel like they didn't touch their relationship that much in this season, especially in compared to the fourth season. But yeah, but that's literally my only nitpick though. That's literally just a nitpick though. If I had to say just one flaw, that's all it would be though. That's my only nitpick. Now that's a character that I think could have gotten a little bit more because I still think Will still got a bit to do. But Lucas still had a chance to shine, I would say. He still had a lot of very funny scenes, like the Coke scene. I love the Coke scene, and the fireworks scene where he gets the idea to throw fireworks at the meat flare. And I love that scene so much. That's another scene that I think should get brought up a little more is them throwing fireworks at the meat flare. I just thought that was pretty dope and it looked beautiful too. Just seeing fireworks inside a mall getting thrown at a monster was so fun to me. So yeah. But yeah, that scene great. The entire Battle of Starcourt, awesome. Hopper and Joyce going to the Russian lab. The whole like suspense building up towards them closing the gate was great. Grigory being there to stop them, Hopper being in the wrong place, like it's just all around suspenseful. And then the never ending story scene. How I love that scene. That is such an amazing scene. Everyone knows, like, that is a very, very cute scene. That is an awesome scene even. So yes, I love that. Yes, that scene, it always gets me pumped up. Every time I see that scene, I'm always singing along too. I'm pumped up. I love that scene so much. Yes, Never Ending Story is arguably one of the best scenes in the entire show. Oh, and another scene that is definitively one of the best scenes in the entire show as well is Billy's death. Billy's death. My God, how sad that scene is. That that scene always gets me to this day. Like that was such a sad death. It always hits hard. Same with Hopper's and Billy's death. Like it was so emotional and it was just a beautiful character arc because we saw him as the main antagonist, but as he goes on, like we see that he really doesn't want to do all this stuff that the mind flayer is making him do, and he was really really regretting it. And as he goes on more, like he's trying to kill 11 for the mind flayer, but 11 gives him a piece of his past. Like she shows him his past, like his best memory when he was with his mom, and that gets his full conscience back up. And from there he decides to save Elle. That is such a beautiful arc right there. One, doing the right thing. Like he died doing the right thing. He never did anything right in this show, and that was the only right thing he ever did, and that was the best thing he could have done. And that was so sad, and the fact that he died right there and the cinematography in that scene is epic. Like that scene is truly epic. Like it's sad but it's epic though cuz it's like it's still a great moment. Like it's still like you can't believe like what just happened here, you know? So yeah, like what, like damn, like that is one of the best deaths of the entire show. The way it ends just makes me cry, just always makes me cry. Hopper's death, or death I should say, but Hopper's death, even though I know it's fake, it still makes me cry to this day seeing how sad these characters are, how sad Elle is, like everyone's emotion here, this having to split the group up. Yes, that scene was great. I love the last few scenes of the show so much with Hopper's letter. That scene always makes me cry. Like it's such an emotional letter, and I even wrote that as my description on my graduation picture on my Instagram. But yes, that scene was so like heart touching. I felt that scene yet again. Like that letter, he just beautifully wrote it, and you can so tell like he didn't really mean most of the stuff he was doing. And that's another thing too. People who are saying he was a jerk, that letter fixes that because it just shows you he really didn't mean it. He was just angry and scared that his daughter was growing up, or his adopted daughter. Like he never saw his actual daughter grow up, and the fact that he's seeing his his adopted daughter, like the one he's taking care of now growing up, being an adult, like it just yeah, that's the main theme about this show. Like that letter also shows that too. And you really feel that, and a lot of parents do feel that too. So yes, beautiful letter he wrote, beautiful season, and I love it so much. My favorite season of all time had more. Yes, it touched me a bit more than four, but I've always said this season was my favorite. I love it so much, and I can't believe it's already 5 years old. Like I said, so yes, my favorite season of all time, A plus masterpiece, just like all the rest. So, yeah, bye and see you all in the next video.